With the 2021-2022 NBA season coming up really soon, I decided now was as good of a time as any to start discussing every single team before the season starts. Basically, the way I'm going to be doing is from the worst teams to the best teams in the league. Right now, I'm at the number 16 spot. Now, at the number 16 spot, I have the LA Clippers, meaning I think the Los Angeles Clippers will be the 16th best team in the NBA this upcoming season. Basically, in today's video, I'll just be discussing how I think the Los Angeles Clippers will do this upcoming season, how I think their players will do individually, things like that. Before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to reach my goal of 1,500 subscribers, also drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments, and play that intro. But quickly before we get into the video, I gotta show you this really quickly. This is the new diversion water bottle. It's basically a water bottle where you can put stuff like your keys, wallet, and other kind of small items like in your water bottle that will make you lose it way less. And it will also just help you to not have your pockets full and things like that. Click the link in my bio if you're interested, and into the video. When it comes to the offensive side of the floor, I actually feel like the Clippers will be top 10 in the NBA. Last season, they were a top 5 offense in the NBA, and even though they'll be missing their best player in Kawhi Leonard for the whole of next season, which obviously is a big deal since he's their best player and he's one of the best offensive players in the whole league, I do think Kawhi's loss will matter, as I do think they will fall out of the top 5 offenses in the league, but I still think they could be a top 10 offense. This is a team filled with plenty of good shooters and just really good offensive players in general, and they have a guy who I think is primed for a big season in Paul George. Talk about Paul George, he was given a lot of hate in 2020, especially in the bubble, but in 2021, especially after the playoffs, he has now gained a lot of respect from his fans with the way he played in the postseason, and I honestly think he's ready to lead this team and gain a lot of respect. I could honestly see Paul George averaging somewhere around 28 to 30 points per game next season, and if the Clippers could be a high seed, I definitely think he could potentially be in MVP considerations. The negative about this team is that outside of Paul George, they don't really have a second star player. Obviously, that guy's supposed to be Kawhi Leonard, but he's supposed to be the main star, but as I said, he's not going to be playing this season. Meaning their second best offensive player is probably going to be Reggie Jackson, and if we're being honest, last season in the playoffs, he went absolutely nuts, averaging over 20 points, and he did on really good efficiency. If Reggie Jackson can play how he did in the playoffs in the regular season, I actually think the Clippers could be really good. But if he goes back to his old ways of being an inefficient guard who likes to chuck up shots and not play make, I actually really think he can negatively impact this team. But to be honest, I don't think he will play how he did in his old ways, but I honestly don't think he'll play how he did in the playoffs either. I don't think he's going to average over 20 points, but I could see him averaging 16 to 18 points on good efficiency while being a good playmaker at the guard position. Next, I want to talk about the guy who I think might win the Most Improved Player award next season, or at least be in the conversation, in Terrence Mann. And I think he might be the third option on this team if he improved. Terrence Mann is a solid 3-point shooter, a very good slasher, just a really good role player. He can move off the ball, and he can even handle the ball and pass the ball at a decent level as well. He is a little bit inconsistent with his play. Some nights he looks like a future star, and some nights he looks like he'll just be a role player for the rest of his career. But to be honest, next season I'm expecting a pretty huge leap out of him. I'm expecting him to average somewhere around 15 to 17 points, and I'm expecting him to become a really popular player. Not really popular, but I just think he's going to become more of like a name. Like everyone's going to know who that guy is unless you're casual. Next, I want to talk about Eric Bledsoe, who has a really negative rep around his name due to the fact that he was always choking in the playoffs, and last year for the Pelicans, he was simply not a good NBA player. But don't forget, Bledsoe in the regular season, outside of last year, was a very elite player and arguably a top 10 point guard in the regular season. He was a defender good enough to be on an all-defensive team, and he was a good enough offensive player with his ability to attack the rim and play make. If the Clippers get that regular season Bledsoe from Milwaukee, they could honestly be really scary because that guy is an absolute monster. But if they get the Eric Bledsoe, who I think will negatively impact this team, like the guy who was on the Pelicans last year, honestly, he can really ruin this team, and he probably will fall out of the rotation because that guy really sucks. And if I'm being honest, I think it's more likely they get the trash Bledsoe. I don't think he'll be as bad as he was in New Orleans, but I don't think he's going to be close to what he was in the regular season in Milwaukee. I don't really have that much confidence in him, but I guess we'll have to see. And then outside of their like 4 main players, they have some really good role players, but like I said, no other stars. Marcus Morris, a guy who's a really good 3-and-D player. He can even handle the ball, create his own shot decently. I think he's going to be really huge for them. Serge Ibaka is going to have to stay healthy this year because he's a floor spacing big man who could defend at the perimeter at above average level. They also need Ivica Zubac to come off the bench and give them some production because he's actually one of the best backup centers in the whole NBA. They'll definitely need his output. Nicholas Batum was one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. Just an all-around player who could play make and defend and rebound the ball at a really good level. They definitely are gonna need him. Luke Kennard was one of the best 3-point shooters, but he fell out of the rotation. But in the playoffs, he had some pretty big games for them, so I just hope he could get some more minutes. They have a lot, and I mean a lot, of not only like good offensive players, but guys who could shoot the 3-ball at an elite level. Because they had I'm pretty sure they had 8 guys who shot over 40% from 3 last season, and they still have most of those guys. So I think this is a team that will be a top 10 offense in the league, and I think their biggest X factor is Reggie Jackson. When it comes to the defensive side of the floor, I honestly think this team will rank somewhere around the number 5 to maybe the 10th spot. This is a team filled with a bunch of quality defenders, and I could honestly see them ranking in the top 5. They have multiple great defenders. They have Paul George, who when engaged on defense is a top 10 defender in the NBA and a top 5 perimeter defender in the NBA. Also have Terrence Mann, who's a really good perimeter defender. Nicholas Batum's just a solid defender as he can help off ball, very high IQ. Serge Ibaka is an above average defensive center when it comes to guarding the perimeter, and he's a reliable shot blocker. Ivica Zubac is really good on help defense, things like that, and he's pretty smart. Marcus Morris is a really good perimeter defender, and Eric Bledsoe, when he gives effort, is an all-NBA level defender. So honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if this was one of the best defenses in the league. The only reason I'm hesitant is because they will be missing their best defender in Kawhi Leonard. But even then, in the regular season, he wasn't giving full effort on defense. So I honestly think they could be a top 10 defense at worst in the NBA. To answer the question of why I rank the Clippers at the number 16 spot, I'm not going to lie, I probably rank them a little bit too low. Because when I look at it, this is a team that I think can be top 10 on offense because they have their top 15 player in Paul George, along with a bunch of really good 3-point shooters. Then on defense, I think they can be top 10 with their plethora of good perimeter defenders and a good rim protector and good big man defenders, which is very important. Honestly, I should have ranked them not in the top 10, but probably around the 12 to 14 spot, probably 2 to 4 spots higher. I do apologize for that, but nonetheless, I do think the Clippers will be a team people will be sleeping on. Then they're going to come out and do very well, and people are going to be kind of surprised. To be honest, I think they could finish as high as the 4th seed, and I think they could finish as low as the 8th seed. If I had to predict, I would go in the middle and choose I think they're going to rank the 6th seed this upcoming year. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know whether or not you think the Clippers will be really good this season. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to reach my goal of 1,500 subscribers. Also, drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments. And I'm out.